So today what we are doing is we are going to be going over your course selections for next year. By the time we are done today, you will have selected classes for next year. Just keep in mind they can be edited and changed. We're going to talk about that today. So I'm going to hand this over to Mrs. Mitchell to talk about what's on this white sheet of paper first, starting with Remind.
Okay, so we are glad to be in here because this is exciting. We think of you guys as rising sophomores moving forward, okay? So just keep that in your mind because you're going to see that a lot. We're going to talk about that a lot. There's a lot of information to give you. We want to make sure that you have access to it. So with the phones that are out, which you'll put away in just a moment, we do want you to go ahead and sign up for the Remind messages that you will be getting from us regarding deadlines, timelines of things. If there's special presentations that we want you to be a part of, we're going to send it to you through Remind. You can see on the back side of your form that it says to text to 81010 at CHS Grad 26. That is you. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead, sign up for the Remind feature so that you can get all the important information we have to share. And then we'll know that you've done that once you put your phones away. Okay?
Go ahead and complete that now. If you're like me and get absolutely zero reception here at Claremont High School, you can hold on to this until tonight and do it when you get home as well.
Okay, but just don't forget. All right, so we're going to move on, and I'm going to go back to what I consider the front side of the form, and that says important dates for the class of 2026. Don't be confused, because if you're on the other side, it does say 25. That's just a mistake, so you might want to even change that, but you are the class of 2026. I'm on this side of the form, and I want to go over that chart that is giving you some deadlines and timelines that we want to make sure that you guys are aware of, okay? So the very first thing you'll see is February 9th. Parent night for sophomore registration on Zoom at 6 p.m. That actually should say parent and student information night. It's not just for your parents. It's for you too. Because what we're going to do today is very specific to selecting classes. What we're covering in the evening is a lot broader. We're going to talk about how to approach the next 3 years of high school and how to make plans for your life after high school. That's why we want you to listen in. The nice thing about a Zoom webinar is that you could be eating dinner, you can be en route to your, baseball practice, you can listen to it anywhere, okay? The other good thing is that it will be recorded so that you can go back and listen to it again, but the best thing about seeing it live is the question and answer. So we're going to be presenting, but the counselors are going to be on answering questions. This will be our third night doing this because we've done it for rising seniors and rising juniors. And there have been tons of excellent questions. So if you have questions, you can get them answered tonight, okay? Now, the other date that you're going to see is February 17th. That's the deadline to make your electronic course request. Mr. Trost just told you, you're going to submit your course requests today. So within the next 45, 50 minutes, you're going to hit the submit button. But you're going to go home and you're going to talk about it with your parents. You may have a conversation with the math teacher, and you're going to say, well, I want to change something. You have until February 17th to edit your form. What's the deadline to edit your form? February 17th. Good. All right. Now you'll notice another block of time, March 20th through March 24th. What's that all about? The nice thing is that you're going to be able to meet with your counselor one-on-one to actually confirm your choices. So you're going to make your choices today. You have until February 17th to edit and change those. Then in March, you're going to meet with your counselor so that he or she can help to make sure that you've made the proper selections. It's also a good opportunity for us to kind of look at what your plans are. We're going to review with you how you've done so far and look at what your future goals are and make sure that your courses that you're selecting are in alignment with that. You will know when you're going to see your counselor based on your PE class. So further down on that page, you'll see a chart that says registration meetings with counselor by PE teacher. You don't have to worry about that. Your PE teacher knows to bring you to the library on that designated date. So depending on who you have for your PE teacher, that is the date that you will go to see your counselor in the library. Make sense? So we're kind of starting a cycle of interactions and meetings that are really important so that we get a sense of what you're trying to do and we can help guide you in that process. Now, as freshmen, I realize that some of you may not know who your counselors are yet. How many of you know your counselor? Raise your hand if you've met your counselor. All right, wonderful. If you have not, we want to take your attention to...
First, I need you to go to the Claremont High School website.
Yes.
So on your iPads, everybody go to Claremont High School. If you don't know how to find the website, go to Google and type in Claremont High School. It will be the first link. And when you get there, you should see this page right here. Okay? Give you a second or two to do that.
I'll come back in frame. I'm just going to peek around to make sure.
Is everybody at this website?
Yep.
Show me with bobbleheads. Yes, we're there. Up and down, bobbleheads. Beautiful. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to navigate to the counselor page on the CHS website. So on your iPads, you should see a little 3-bar menu up here. Yes? Okay. It doesn't show that on the laptop, but it'll show it on your iPad. It's a 3-bar menu. We're going to click on that 3-bar menu. We're going to click counseling and then the CHS counseling department. You guys all see that? Yes? Okay. So we should all be on this website here. Counselors at Claremont High School are assigned by alphabet, by your last name. So, for example, that's me right there, Mr. Troche, and my last names are A through CHAT. So if your last name starts with an A, a B, or a C through CHAT, you are my student. And I apologize in advance. I tell a lot of really bad jokes. You are expected to laugh at all of them. That was one of them. Oh, man, this is a tough crowd today, Miss Mitchell.
Yep.
Okay.
Miss
Mitchell's alphabet, give me 1 second, is GOO through LE. Okay. She's a much better counselor than me. Let's be honest. No, we actually have a phenomenal counseling staff here at Claremont High School. It's an honor to work with them. And they're all listed here. If you're wondering who your counselor is, just find out where your last name would fall. Does that make sense?
Like I told the last class, by the time you guys are seniors, you're going to get a chance to know all of us, because there are a lot of times where we'll be in classrooms like this. There will be times where you're going to come in and see us with questions at lunch, and maybe your counselor is going to be with a student. They may be unavailable at that time. If it's a general question, it is very common for us to just grab you in and say, what's your question? Maybe I can answer it. Ms. Stevenson is our guidance secretary. She can answer a lot of your general questions as well, but you will get used to meeting all the people in the counseling department as a source of support for you.
Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the counseling links on the right-hand side, and we're going to click on that course selection link, that top link right there. Go ahead and click on that. And you should see this little signpost. Is everybody here? Bobbleheads? Yes? Awesome. Okay. I want to show you what's on here. 3 different columns. That far left column, this is the course selection schedule. Now, as I'm talking to you, I want to emphasize this. You are rising sophomores, right? You're not rising freshmen. Please don't get confused and start looking at this. This is not you. This is the current 8th graders. You are right here under rising sophomores. So every time I talk today about what links you should be using, it's the rising sophomore links. Okay, now you take a look up here. This is the schedule. It's the same dates and information we just gave you guys. Okay, same stuff. Okay, if you happen to lose this sheet of paper, that's quite all right. It's still up here on the website. So you can come back to the website and know when things are happening. Okay, you guys see this little blue text with an underline in it? What is that? What does that mean? On a website, blue and has an underline. What's that called? A hyperlink. Do you know what the hyperlink is for? The webinar. So if you did not get the Canvas message that I sent out, you did not get the remind that I sent out, if your parents didn't get the email that I sent out, nor the text message that I sent out, you can always find it here. I sent out a lot of messages last week, okay? But it's all right here. Does that make sense? In the center, this talks about the webinars again. So there's, again, Rising Sophomores webinar tonight at 6 p.m., okay? Again, the webinar link and also the slides. So if you're like, I wonder what they're presenting on. Or oftentimes we get questions from parents, can I have the slides? They're all right there. Does that make sense? I want to draw your attention just briefly up to the juniors up here. Do you guys see where it says recorded webinar and recorded classroom presentation? We're doing that right now. We're recording this presentation. This gets posted onto the website. The webinar tonight is being recorded. It will be posted in the same spot just under sophomores for you. Okay? Ms. Mitchell mentioned it earlier. The benefit of going to the live presentation is that you can actually ask questions with us live. Okay? And either we will type back in the Q&A or we'll answer them vocally inside the actual webinar. Okay? So we would highly encourage you being there and joining us for that webinar tonight. Okay, on the right-hand side, I know yesterday Ms. Gosnell came in and talked with all of you about MYP, right? Okay, there's some more information about MYP, and as you're looking forward, also the IB diploma program. That's really for your junior year, not for your sophomore year, but if you want to look ahead, you can look at that as well. You scroll back, oh, it's me, I forgot. I'm doing it differently than last time. Going back up to the top, I'm going to hand this back to Mrs. Mitchell for a minute.
Absolutely. Okay, so that very top link says graduation and college requirements comparison. I want you guys to click on that because I want you to get familiar with this. You are going to use this throughout your 4 years of high school because this is a chart that will help you understand why you're taking what you're taking. And it kind of gives meaning or purpose to showing up to high school. It's hard to do things that you don't really know why you're doing it. So this is to help you understand it. Don't get scared because it's a lot of information. That's where counselors come in. But I want to give you an overview of what it really is explaining. Everybody has to live in this lane because this lane is the graduation requirements lane. So that means for every single one of those students on my caseload, I have to make sure that you're fulfilling those grad requirements. 3 years of social science, 2 years of science, 4 years of English, 2 years of PE. That is a requirement for you to get your CHS diploma. Everybody needs to do that, okay? But in addition to that, as your counselor, I'm keeping track of beyond just what it takes to graduate. If you're wanting to go to a 4-year college, and that means if you're thinking of a Cal State or a UC, so like Cal Poly Pomona, UCLA, UC Riverside, APU, University of Laverne, Howard University, Harvard, Harvey Mudd, if you're thinking of a 4-year college, I got to make sure that you're meeting the requirements in this lane also, okay? So to graduate, you need a D or better in your classes. I would encourage the or better, but a D will give you credits for a class. But for college, guess what? D's will not cut it. For college, what kind of a grade do you need to have? C or better, and especially the or better, okay? Because most schools are looking to see that you've not just been average in that course, but that you've shown some level of competency, okay, or excellence. For some of my students who are planning to do sports, how many of you are thinking of going to a 4-year college and participating in collegiate athletics? Okay, so that means you need to potentially meet those NC2A requirements as well. So as your counselor, I'm going to make sure that, hey, we've got you in those classes that you need to fulfill that category. So there's a lot of things that your counselors are keeping track of. That's why when you guys want to change classes or drop classes, we're saying, whoa, time out. I'm making sure that you have what you need for graduation as well as some other things too, okay? The good news is, as long as you follow what your counselor is telling you, we're going to try to keep you on track with all of this. You don't have to memorize it all, but it's good for you to understand where it is and how to access it. So this is our job. What is your job? To pass these classes, to show up to school on time, to not be late to class, to show up and to pass these classes to the best of your ability, and to ask for help if you're having trouble passing the classes, okay? So there's a lot of information, but we're here to help support you, but we need you to make sure that you show up and do your part. Everybody got that? All right, let's go ahead and go out of that. And the next link that you'll see, I don't want you to open it because it's a long document. It's a PDF. It's about 40 pages long. That's a course description book. That means every single class that we offer at Claremont High School, core classes as well as electives, are listed in the course description book, okay? So if you did need to see what a prerequisite was to take AP Chemistry or what the description was for AP Physics, you could click on that link and it's going to give you the description of every course that we offer. I think what's more applicable for you today is understanding that third link, CHS Electives option. Go ahead and open that one. Now, that is a link that will show you a description of all the electives that you get to choose from for next year. There are a lot of electives. Some of them you will qualify to take as 10th graders. Some of them you're going to notice, oh, this says it's for 11th and 12th grade students, so I can't take that next year, but I can still look ahead and see what that class is all about so that if I want to take it as a junior or a senior, I know what I'm signing up for, okay? So as you're making your choices today and over the next 10 days or so when you're editing, you can go back and see the descriptions of the courses, of the electives. You can see what the requirement is as far as what it might take to get into that class, what it fulfills, okay? We can scroll, Mr. Troche, scroll up just a little. Oh, no, you're actually there. Perfect.
I got you.
Read my mind.
I got you.
All right. You're going to notice that there's some classes that are actually Citrus College dual enrollment.
You guys see that?
Does everybody see that? So for Counseling 160, Counseling 120, Counseling 207, those are actually Citrus College classes that we offer here at CHS. There are some students who are earning what's called they're enrolled in dual enrollment courses. They're earning college credit already. That's a pretty cool option to understand. So even if you don't take one of these courses next year, we want to plant that seed so that you know that part of your CHS experience, part of your education is that not only do you earn high school credit toward graduation, some of you might graduate with enough college credits that you can carry over with you, and that can get you through your college experience a little bit faster.
I have a student this year who is graduating from Claremont High School and will have 2 full years of college done by taking advantage of these courses and taking additional courses at Citrus College. In high school, they've already done 2 years of college already. These are options for you as students to look at, and I would recommend as a sophomore, maybe these are some things you do consider doing. And we just went down to the counseling classes. We also have classes in art and history as well. You'll find those right here on this elective.
How much do those classes cost, Mr. Troche?
Oh man, they are so expensive, Miss Mitchell.
How much?
They're free.
Whoa.
Wait, you have to buy books though, don't you?
No, those are free too.
No, those are free too. Yep. Okay, guys, these cost you nothing. If you were to take, let's take this class right here, Counseling 160 at Citrus College, the cost of that book is $30. You'd be paying for the cost of the book. Plus the cost of the class, depends on certain circumstances, can be up to an extra, I think, $800. And you get it for free. Does that make sense, guys? So would really recommend you consider taking advantage of some of our concurrent enrollment classes or the dual enrollment classes while you're here at Claremont High School. All right, let's go ahead and hit back and let's keep moving.
All right.
Nope,
we're going to go back to the counseling link. Okay, so you will see that there are some classes, some electives that you may want to try next year, but they may be a little different in that they require an audition or an application of sorts. So this just tells you for those classes, whether it's a higher level choir, theater, yearbook, wolf packet, you can select them. And we're going to show you how to select them in just a moment, but you can't just select it. You have to select it and then realize, oh, I need to communicate with Mr. Glavin if I have questions about that application, which is due by Friday, June 2nd, okay? Or I'm interested in yearbook, there's Ms. Kennedy's email address, there's a March 31st deadline to actually register or apply for that. So again, just make sure that when we get to where you're making your selections, you know that if it's a class that needs some additional supplements, you know how to access what those are. Let's go ahead and go back out.
Okay.
And I think now we're ready to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to start making your course selections. And remember, you are rising what? Sophomores. Okay.
If you select this one, Rising Freshman, you're going to be taking freshman English again. And I know we all love Mr. DiGiulio, but do you really want to take freshman English again? Okay, so make sure you are clicking on the Rising Sophomore link. I want everybody doing this right now. So we're going to click on it, and it should pop up. It should look exactly like this. Now, if you log in and you get a sign into Google requirement, anybody get that? That means you need to sign into your CUSD Google account. Go ahead and do that now, okay? You must be logged in with your CUSD Google account to access this form. So if you go home and mom wants to pull this up on her computer, you're going to have to log into your CUSD Google account. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, perfect. Okay, show me with your heads, bobbleheads. Are we all here right now? This is a fun class, a good class.
If your neighbor is having trouble and you've already found it, it's okay. Help your neighbor out.
Okay.
We want to walk through this together, okay?
So your screen should look like mine, yes? Okay, we are going to walk through this step by step. Please don't jump ahead. I want to try and, as best as we can, take you through it step by step. And by the time we're done, we'll be submitting all this, okay? So we're going to start off with your email. In addition to your email, you're going to be entering your phone number. Here's the reason we need this. Over the summer, if we have a question regarding your course selection, we may need to contact you. And it needs to be your phone number and your email. Okay, because we want to ask you the question. We don't want to ask your parents that question. Because it's you're the one who's taking the classes. It's your decision to make. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. We may need to ask you some questions in order to work on your schedule. This does not happen a lot. I would say 5 or 6 students a year, actually, we need to talk with over the summer. It's not very often. So if you don't get an email from us, don't worry about it. However, it needs to be an email address you actually check. Okay, I know a lot of you don't check your Claremont address. So in this situation, if you check a Gmail account or something else, I would use that there. Does that make sense? Okay. Ms. Butcher, do you want to go? I'm going to start filling it out.
Absolutely. All right, so the next thing that you're going to do is, we'll scroll, and we'll pause right here for just a moment. There's a link for summer school. You don't have to click on that. Your counselor will talk to you when we have that one-on-one meeting, and we'll go over some details about summer school if you have questions. But just know that that's a link that will give you some information about dates and times for summer school. Okay, so on your own, you can go back and look at that if you need to. All right, ID number. This is very important. And in fact, it's so important that if you're unsure, please don't guess. If you're unsure, I'd rather you go ahead and check your ID card, check to make sure that you've got the right ID number, because this number identifies who you are. And if we do not have the correct number, you don't get your classes, okay? So we don't want you to go through all the work of selecting classes thinking you're all done, but then nothing gets recorded because you did not input your correct ID number. So please double check, make sure that you've got the correct ID number there. The next one. Scroll back up, Mr. Troche, real quick. Again. There we go.
Yeah, right. We didn't do this.
Last name, then first name. Okay? I know that seems like a no-brainer, but it never fails that every year we get a few students who get really quick. They're going ahead. They're so excited to pick classes. They put their first name first. Please know that once you guys submit this, we print these out. These become tangible things that your counselor is looking at when we meet with you. And if you don't get your name correct, put your last name first and get all mixed up, that means we can't find your form. And so you'll be sitting with Mr. Troche and he'll say, you didn't submit anything. You'll say, I know I did. And there might be a couple of days later that one of the other counselors says, this is random. I don't have this student. And we realize you flipped your names. Okay? So last name, then first name. Question? The one that's on your ID card.
Yep.
Yes.
We need the one that's in our system.
Card.
Yep.
That's all we need.
Perfect.
Okay. The next question is, I have an IEP or 504 plan. If that applies to you, you already know that. And if it doesn't, you're going to check none. Okay. And now the next question, I wish to prepare for the following. This is a really great way for us to kind of start conversations. We're going to ask this question all years that we meet with you for registration. So you'll get this again next year and the year after that, because again, we know that your goals and plans might change. So if you are a student who's thinking, you know, I'm really interested in going into the military or going straight into the workforce, that's something I want to know, because when we have a career fair or in the fall next year, and I know that there's going to be a recruiter there who's offering the ASVAB, a test that you would take just to find your capabilities, I might say, you know what, I want you to sign up to take the ASVAB next year, okay, based on you telling me that you're interested in this. 2-year college, 4-year college. Some of our students don't know for sure. I think I want to go to a 4-year college, but I'm kind of interested in that community college route, starting off at Citrus and then transferring. Can you check them both? You can check them both. You can check all of these, okay? It's not an exclusive, I can only check one box. You may be a student who is interested in IB. The point is, this leads our conversation with you when we're meeting you one-on-one. Everybody got that? All right. This one, and I think, Mr. Troche, you dealt with that one well last
So absolutely. Yesterday, you guys had Mrs. Gosnell come in and talk with you about the IB Middle Years program, right? Okay. If you want to be part of that program, or if you already have selected to be part of the program, you are going to select yes here. If you haven't, go ahead and select no. Okay. Jumping down to the next one, selecting a start time. You have 2 different options. You can start the morning at 7:25 a.m. or start at 8:30 a.m. Now, let me ask a question. How many in here have a 0 period? Okay. Does anybody in here want a 0 period but didn't get it this year? They wanted it but didn't get it? Okay. Let me explain why that happens. Every year, Dr. Mitchell, that's our assistant principal of curriculum, who writes the master schedule, asks every single teacher on this campus if they are willing to teach a 0 period. So Mr. DiGiulio, I know, happens to teach a 0 period, and he said he wants to next year. Well, guess what? That means I can offer, in his case, senior English in 0 period, because that's what he teaches. But other teachers choose not to. And let's just say, for example, all of our chemistry teachers next year don't want a 0 period. Guess what that means? I cannot offer chemistry in 0 period at all. So it really is dependent on which teachers are willing to teach 0 period and how many. And that changes from year to year. And so if you don't get a 0 period this year or next year, that really means that we just didn't have that available as an option, or it filled up very quickly. It is not because your counselor doesn't like you. It is not because for some reason you made somebody mad. Nothing like that. 0 periods are assigned first by a computer, and then we as counselors go through and try and get everybody what they're asking for, but it is not always possible. So when you select you want a 0 period or not, that will really depend on what is available next year during 0 period. Okay? Jumping down to social science.
Want me to take over?
Yes, because I want to do the numbers. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So while we're going through this electronically, I'm going to put it on the board in the way that I see it as a counselor. Okay? Because all we're doing right now is selecting your 6-period day. Okay? Doesn't mean it's going to be in this order, but just work with me here. This is a 6-period day that we're filling in. So next year is exciting because this year you don't have a history class. But starting next year, you begin your social science or your history coursework at Claremont High School. How many years of history or social science do you need to graduate? 3. Yeah. So we have world history next year. You have U.S. history in your junior year. And then in your senior year, you have a semester each of government and economics. So that makes 3 years. For all of you, it's pretty simple. You're going to go ahead and select world history. That's your first class that you've chosen for sophomore year. The next selection you're making is English. How many years of English do you need to graduate from Claremont High School? 4 years of English. All right, everybody takes English. So those of you who struggle in English and just feel like it doesn't matter if I pass this English class because I'll just do it again, well, guess what? You have to do it every 4 years. So when you don't pass English, guess what you're doing in the summer? Summer school to make up English. So pass your English classes. And if you're struggling, get support, get help with that. So your second class is sophomore English. Third class we're choosing is math. Now, we got a ton of choices here, and that's because you all may be in different spots in your math progression. So the class that you take next year for math is dependent on what you're taking right now. If you're in Integrated Math 1A, next year you would take 1B. If you're currently in Integrated Math 1 and you pass that, you're going to take Integrated Math 2. All right, any students who are in 3 would take pre-calculus. Most of our freshmen, rising sophomores, they're somewhere in the 1A, 1 or 2 category. Some of you may be in higher level math courses. If there's anybody in here who's in Integrated Math 1, 2, next year you would take 2, 3. Okay? All right, makes sense? We've all made our math selection.
You know, Miss Mitchell, I'm in Integrated Math 3.
Mm-hmm.
What do I take next?
Because you do have some choices, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder who would be a good resource for Mr. Troche to ask. I'm not quite sure what I'm really wanting to take next year in math based on how I'm doing right now. I'm wondering what I should do. Any thoughts as to who he could ask? You can ask your counselor.
Absolutely. You can always ask your counselor
that
that question.
Your counselor's also going to rely on somebody else, though. Who else might have a better idea of Mr. Troche's skill set and where he belongs?
Your math teacher. Yep, absolutely. And as you're selecting courses, and this is probably true of science too, and I would say any subject, especially as you get into your junior and senior year when you're picking even more complicated classes, asking your teachers is a really good resource for you. Would highly recommend doing. All right, let's jump down. Let's talk about science next. Oh, we're going to select a math course.
Yep.
And now we're going to take a look at science. For science, if you're in biology right now, you should be going to chemistry. If you're in physical science, you're going to biology. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. There will be circumstances in which we will recommend taking physical science next year as a sophomore, but I want to do that one-on-one with you. So I want to talk with you about where you're at in math in particular. Because if you're struggling in Integrated Math 1, you really don't want to go into chemistry. Chemistry has quite a bit of algebraic equations in it, and we want to get you a solid base in integrated math 1 before you move on to chemistry. So that may be a one-on-one conversation. For now, if you're in biology, you're selecting chemistry.
But Mr. Troche, I heard through the grapevine that you guys are going to offer chemistry this summer, and I want to take it this summer. So what am I supposed to select?
Absolutely true. We do offer chemistry in the summer for advancement. And if you want to get ahead in science, this is a great way to do that. In this situation, I still want you selecting chemistry. Now, when we get to the end, there's a spot specifically to talk about that. But for now, you're going to pick chemistry. Okay?
All right.
All right, let's go ahead and select chemistry, and let's push down to world language. So, how many years of a world language do you need to graduate from Claremont High School? I see 2, I see 2, I see 3, I see 2.
I think I see the right answer over there.
I see a 0. That is the correct answer. It is actually 0. To graduate from Claremont High School, you need 1 year of a world language, or, the or is the key word there, 1 year of fine art, or 1 year of an ROP class. That's all you need.
ROP classes would be things like audio production, stage production. Okay, we have a variety of ROP classes, and even more when you get into the higher grade levels.
But most of you here right now are planning to go to a 4-year college. And so you will actually want to complete 2 years of a world language, with 3 being recommended. So for the most of you, you will be selecting a 2nd year of a world language. If you're already in a 2nd year of world language this year, if you're in Spanish 2 this year, then you can look at Spanish 3 or Honors Spanish 3 next year, or Honors German, Honors French, depending on what you're in. Okay, so number 5 is going to be a world language. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select Spanish 2 for the fun of it. Now, if you just select this last link here that you do not want to do a world language next year, you will be taken to another page, which will require you to give us 2 elective options. We're going to skip that for now. We're going to jump directly to the elective options because most of you in this room are going to be taking a world language. Just know that if you're not taking a world language, you will have to select 2 additional elective options. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and make the selection. We're going to click on Next. And now we're at our electives. So this is that 6th spot. Period. Okay. And electives here, you have some choices. Actually, quite a few choices. So if you click that drop-down menu, you're going to see them all. And as you go through this, I don't know what visual art is through Citrus. Where do you find that information? Who remembers? You want to find out what a class is? Where do you look? You remember? At the very beginning.
So on that counseling page, remember on the, I think it was like maybe the 2nd or 3rd one down, it said CHS elective options. That's where you go. Okay, so you can answer that question for yourself as often as you need to because that's where the descriptions are. And I guarantee you, even if you came in and talked to me or talked to your counselor, we're still going to probably direct you there because we don't have every single detail remembered about every single elective. Okay.
Okay. So as you're picking elective options, you need to have unique elective options for each section. So let's say, for example, I really want to take badminton. And I select that as my primary. The 2nd and 3rd one should not be badminton. Okay, let me explain what happens. If you select badminton 3 times in a row, or any elective 3 times in a row, what you are telling the counselor is, you do not care if I give you anything. You're telling us that you're okay with whatever Mrs. Mitchell decides you have for your elective. That's what you're saying. Because think about it here for a second. If you're at a restaurant and you want ranch on your salad, and they say, we don't have ranch, and you say, but I want ranch on my salad, what are they going to say again? We don't have ranch. It's the same way with electives, and eventually you're going to just let your waiter pick a random dressing to put on your salad. You guys see how this works?
You should tell him, if you don't have ranch, I'll take Italian.
Yep.
Because you know you really don't want blue cheese, but if you give him the choice, he may put blue cheese on your salad. I personally like it, but you may not like that. So give us options so that we can give you at least something that you would like. I'm glad that you used the PE as a example, because how many years of PE or how many years of PE do you need to graduate? I see one, I see one, I see one, I see two. You need 2 years of PE because you need a total of how many credits? 20 credits, exactly. So some of you are going to get your PE credits through 4 years of your sport, because every season that you play a sport, you get 2.5. So if you do your sport for 4 years, you're going to end up with 10 more credits. So you'll get 10 for freshman year and then 10 more for your sport, okay? Some of you are in the band or color guard where you're getting PE credits there. But for students who aren't planning on doing a sport, keep in mind that after freshman year, you still need 10 PE credits. Many sophomores will say, I'm going to go ahead and use my sophomore year to get those PE classes done. So again, you would choose a first choice PE and then give us backups as PE. If you know you want to get your PE credits done, don't give us badminton and then give us ceramics and photography, okay? Because we want to give you your PE. I'll be honest with you, PE is going to fall where it falls, and so we try our best. Sometimes we can't give you your first choice because we're really looking at making sure we get you in that honors Spanish 3. Yep. Okay, or something else. But we try, okay?
Now, let's say you've auditioned for something or you've done an interview. So let's say you're an AVID. Who's an AVID in here? Okay, that's going to be your primary choice elective, okay? Now, I still want you to make 2 more elective selections, okay? Here's the reason for that. If you're just auditioning or interviewing for the first time for a program, I'm not going to know that on this form. And if you don't make it, I need a backup. That's the reason why we need the backups. But when you come in to see me and I know you're in that class, I'm going to actually delete out all of your alternates, because being an AVID, being in choir, in band, in musical theater, in yearbook, in ASB, in Wolf Packet, I forgot the name of it there for a second. All of those become priorities, and we want to make sure you're in the program that you auditioned or interviewed for. It's really important to us. So we will delete out the electives. But for now, if you're in one of those programs, I do want to see alternate electives here. Okay. Question? Okay. We'll come back to that in a second. Okay. That's a technical thing. We'll look at that. All right. Coming back to the form. Is everybody at a point where they've picked their electives? Beautiful. We're going to click on Next. And now you're going to see this page here. And there's 2 questions on this particular page. Number 1 is please use the space provided to give us any additional information. So, someone taking chemistry over the summer, you selected chemistry up above, but you know you want to take it over the summer. I want you to type in here, I want to take chemistry over the summer, and I want AP Chem, or AP Environmental Science, or AP Biology. Right there. That's what that's for. If you're an AVID, and you're like, Mr. Trosh, I'm an AVID, I need to get my fine art in. Can I take a fine art as well? That's where I want you to type that in. If you're in choir and theater, and you want both next year, I want it typed in there. Does that make sense, guys? So this is where you're going to type in any additional information for your counselor to review. This should not be an essay.
No.
This should not be a whole bunch of information.
And in fact, many of you won't need to type anything in there.
Yep.
So usually it's students who are in AVID and they've got, I need 7 classes to do AVID and ASB. Form doesn't allow it, but this is where you tell us that, okay?
Okay, and then the last thing here is just a quick statement about the fact that courses are given based on space availability, which means if I don't have the space or the room, I can't give it to you, and that you review this with your parents and that you know you need to meet prerequisites. That's that last statement. But you'll notice it says we, student and parent, understand this. I'm going to have you check it now because we want to submit right now. But that also means you need to go home and have this conversation with your parents. Show them the form and talk with them about the courses you are selecting for next year. Does that make sense? All right, so now I've selected that. I am done with the form and I hit submit. You've now submitted your course request for next year. Okay, you decide it's time to go home. You close out the window because unlike Mr. DeJulia, you don't like a bazillion tabs open. I'm the same way, don't feel bad. Okay, and you need to make a change to it. You get home tonight and you're like, oh, I realized, Miss Mitchell, I put the wrong ID number in.
Uh-oh, you need to change that.
That's a problem. How do I change that?
You're rising what? Rising Sophomore.
See that link that you used before? Click on it again. And guess what it says? You can edit your response. So we're going to click edit the response. Remember, I messed up on my D, Miss Mitchell, so I got to find my ID. I'm going to go down here, and I see it here. And, oh, yeah, see, I forgot the 7 at the end. So I type that in. You're not done yet. You have a little bit more to do. You need to go hit next. Hit next. Oops, I don't know where that came up from. Go away. Click next, and then click submit. It does not save it until you click submit. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, you can edit this form as many times as you want. Up until what day? Louder. February 17th. On February 17th at 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m., this form closes, and you will no longer have access to this form. Now, Miss Mitchell and I can still make changes when we meet one-on-one. That's still a possibility, so don't freak out. We can still make changes. But I want you to access this form and make any changes, and make sure you've talked with your parents about what you've chosen before February 17th at 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m. Does that make sense, guys? All right. We have talked a lot at you. Any questions?
A question?
No? Somebody has a question? Yes.
So she's asking about PE for next year.
Okay.
Right?
So
So,
PE is an elective course that you can take in your sophomore year. If you haven't done sports and you want to get it done, you absolutely can. Your choices as a sophomore will be badminton, bodybuilding, or volleyball. Now, you do not have to take it as a sophomore, but you can take it as a junior or a senior. But if you want to get it out of the way and never have to worry about PE again and never take PE again, those are what your options are.
so it won't be listed as sophomore PE. After your freshman year, it's not designated as a class for your grade level. After freshman year, it's just an elective that you take. Okay?
That clarify?
Any other questions? Great question. Thank you. Any other
Question?
question? Is it possible to take 2 electives? The answer to that is yes, but it does depend on space availability.
And it depends on which electives.
Yeah.
So for example, remember AVID is considered an elective, but a student who's in AVID may also be in ASB, or they may also want to take an art class. Okay, so that's where we'd have to look and see what your circumstances are. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes students get really excited in their sophomore year and they say, I really want to take even more classes. Do you remember what's the brand new subject area that you're going to be introduced to next year? History. So that means we're not taking anything away. You're still going to have math. You're still going to have English. You're still going to have science. Most of you are still going to have language. You're still going to have those 4 core classes plus history. So when your counselor meets with you, we're really looking at the balance that you've got going on, because students who want to take electives just because they want more classes, I love that eagerness, and I'm going to encourage you to stay motivated and hungry to learn. But I also want you to be well, and I want you to be healthy, and we don't want you to burn yourselves out because you've taken on more than what's really appropriate for your second year, especially when we're tossing in another academic subject area. Does that make sense? Okay. Question?
Great question. So
when does chemistry run?
when
in
does
the
chemistry
summer?
over the summer start? So our summer school classes start on June 22nd. But if you want very specific dates and times, if you log on to the course, to the summer school pre-registration form, you
They
can
can be
actually see
edited.
exactly when they are. So on the Claremont High School course selection page, you scroll all the way down the bottom, you'll see like an FAQ section. And at the very end, right here, this link here, this is the summer school pre-registration. That has the dates and times. You will have to fill out a little information. Nothing will be saved until you hit submit, so you can go through and see the dates and times without actually submitting. But that's where you will find that information. Does that answer the question? Good question.
Is there somebody else's hand up?
No?
I know there were some people who had specific individual situations, so I'm going to assist with that.
Okay, perfect. Yes, question. That's a great question. Are the classes in the summer in person or are they online? It depends on the course you're taking. So that is something I want you, they're designated, that actually shows on that pre-registration form. It'll tell you which classes are in person, which classes are online, and which classes are synchronous online, meaning you have to be there at certain times. So you want to look at that particular form. It'll tell you which ones are which. Okay, great question, actually. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you for your time. I think there's just enough time for their pop quiz now. So I think you guys can get started on that, and you should be, just kidding. I'm just messing with you. There's no pop. Well, I don't know. Is there a pop quiz?
Nope.
Oh, you got lucky. Okay. Thank you guys for your time. We appreciate it very much. If you have questions, come into the office and meet with your counselor during lunch. We'll be glad to answer questions at that point. Thanks, boss.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's go ahead and hit